A vast, verdant landscape stretches out under a bright blue sky, rolling green hills meeting a winding river in the distance. Here, on a gentle slope, stands a man with brown hair, a shovel slung over his shoulder, surveying the expansive view. Beside him, a companion with light blue hair holds a staff, while three small, rounded creatures gather near a white flag planted in the ground, its elaborate symbol catching the eye. The wind whips across the plains, making the flag snap and billow in the brisk air. The brown-haired man turns, a confident, slightly mischievous smile on his face. He declares, "My name is Suho Kim." He stands proudly, beaming as his blue-haired companion watches. Below, the curious little creatures look up at them. They chirp and squeak with lively expressions. One seems a little angry, another surprised, and others excited. But here, in this world, my name is Lloyd Frontera, and this is the story. With a confident, energetic grin, Lloyd Frontera twirls his shovel high above his head, ready for whatever adventure awaits. Here stands Lloyd, a young man exuding confidence, his large shovel held high with a triumphant, knowing smile. He's about to make his mark. And with a powerful slam, the shovel digs deep into the earth, kicking up dirt and leaves, unleashing incredible force. Moments later, Lloyd stands alongside Javier. A bright, circular grid of blue energy now surrounds Lloyd, emanating from his shovel as green energy lines snake across the scene. They watch as the world around them begins to change. Looking down, the full scope of their work is revealed. A vast, glowing blue grid now stretches across the landscape, covering distant green hills under a bright sky. A low, persistent hum echoes across the expansive transformation, a colossal process unfolding before them. This is the extraordinary tale of how your average civil engineering student turned an entire world upside down. A breathtaking, towering city of vibrant green digital light rises from the landscape, its intricate lines pulsing with energy, a testament to the immense power unleashed. Another surge of energy sweeps through the sky. Lloyd and Javier stand, gazing out at the magnificent, glowing digital cityscape they have created or transformed. It's a moment of quiet contemplation over their incredible achievement. Lloyd finally turns to his companion. "Javier?" Javier looks back, attentive and ready. "Yes, Master Lloyd."
"This is all money." His face is alight with pure, unadulterated joy, a booming laugh erupting as he throws his hands wide, eyes squeezed shut in ecstatic glee. "Bwah!" He bellows, standing triumphant on a rolling green hill under a vast blue sky. His arms are still spread wide, his gaze fixed upwards. Nearby, a man in a dark suit watches him, staff in hand, a shovel stuck upright in the ground between them. "Have you finally lost it, sir?" he asks, a note of disbelief in his voice. But a few years ago, the world was a much quieter place. Scenic landscapes dotted with charming European-style homes nestled amongst trees under a serene, bright sky. Then, a sudden digital alarm. You have been chosen to have a random wish granted by the Absolute. Moments later, a congratulatory message appeared. "Congrats! Clap, clap, clap." The man lay dazed on barren ground, looking up at the glowing blue screen floating above him. Dark circles under his eyes, a small trail of drool escaping his lips. He was utterly bewildered. The message concluded with a stark revelation. You are now a character of Knight of Blood and Iron. Staring up in utter disbelief, a glowing, transparent screen floats before him, delivering an impossible message. Knight of Blood and Iron?
The book I read last night? You are now a character of Knight of Blood and Iron. The screen then transforms, now vibrant blue and adorned with cheerful confetti, practically bursting with encouragement. Good luck! You've got this! Yeah! But what does any of this even mean? A wish? Good luck with what? I haven't even had anything to drink, he thought, his mind racing. His eyes went wide, a gasp escaping his lips as the blurry darkness around him began to solidify into an unfamiliar world. Am I in a different world? He tried to piece it together, a sudden realization dawning. Oh, is this one of those web novels where I've possessed someone from a different world? If that were the case, then why was he waking up face down on a dirt road leading towards some picturesque but distant medieval village? There he lay, curled uncomfortably on the dusty ground amidst the dark foliage. He groaned, slowly pushing himself up from the cold earth. It's freezing. He hunched over, wrapping his arms around himself tightly, his body trembling from the biting cold. Then a new wave of distress washed over him. He grimaced, eyes wide with alarm. What's wrong with my lips? Before he could ponder it, a red, glowing health alert box materialized, delivering the hilariously painful diagnosis: your jaw has gone out of place from sleeping on the ground.
I know that! These alerts are ticking me off. So, I get that I've taken over some character in this story. Is this a dream? Is this for real? Who have I taken over? In Knight of Blood and Iron, the only person who lived in the middle of nowhere and fell asleep on the ground was Master Lloyd.
There you are. I've been looking everywhere for you. Let us return to the manor. Under a deep twilight sky, a grand multi-story manor house stood, its many windows glowing warmly, illuminating the dark expanse around it. Inside, by the hearth of a richly decorated room, a man named Javier, with light blue-green hair and dressed in a dark uniform, crouched, tending to the bright flames with a metal poker. He looked off to the side, his expression serious as he posed a question. So, you have no idea how you ended up like that? The details of the previous night's escapades quickly emerged. It seemed someone had started drinking in the afternoon, gotten thoroughly drunk, destroyed some pub furniture, and then passed out on their way back to the manor. Javier now stood tall near the glowing fireplace, his back partially to the viewer, looking down at another man. This man, Lloyd, with brown hair, was sitting on the floor, completely bundled in a large tan blanket, looking disheveled and distraught. Javier delivered his stern verdict. That really is the day in the life of a hooligan. Javier explained further, revealing he had been sent by his lordship out of concern. Despite Lloyd's wild behavior, Javier noted, "You may be a hooligan, but you are his son. If you die on the road with your jaw out of place, he will be sad." A flicker of thought crossed Javier's face as he mused to himself. He really sneaks those attacks in there. Meanwhile, Lloyd, still wrapped tightly in his blanket, shivered visibly, his hands drawn close to his body. He wished for the warmth of a heated ondel, acknowledging the impracticality in this medieval fantasy setting. The cold was clearly getting to him. Javier then announced his intentions. "I will leave you to rest, sir. I will report what happened to his lordship tomorrow." As Javier turned to leave, Lloyd, looking up with a slightly forlorn expression, asked, "Do you have to?" Javier's answer was firm. Yes, though internally he conceded, "He's so uptight." Javier reached for the handle of a dark wooden door, about to exit, but Lloyd's voice stopped him. "Wait, Javier." Javier paused at the threshold, turning his profile towards Lloyd, and responded formally, Yes, Master Lloyd.
Our family has a lot of debt, don't we? The young man asked, his brow furrowed with concern, a bead of sweat tracing his cheek as his golden eyes cast downward. Another voice, calm and detached, responded, "What a strange thing to say." A sharp sound echoed through the traditional room as a heavy wooden door closed with finality. He stood there, alone by an ornate bed, lost in thought, the room's soft light unable to dispel the growing shadow of his worries. But then, a new resolve hardened his expression. He knew something no one else did. "I know everything that happens in this story," he declared, his jaw set with a fierce determination. It was just last night, in the microscopic boarding house room he called home, that he read the very last chapter. There, huddled in the dim glow of his screen, he had discovered it all. "And of course I know what happens to Lloyd." He recounted the tragic future he had foreseen. Part 1. The Baron and Baroness fall prey to an evil conman, lose all of their land and fortune, and commit suicide. The despair was palpable, hands clenching in a gesture of helplessness as he spoke of the dramatic revelation. "Lloyd then becomes a beggar, drinking all day long," he continued, picturing the scene. A man, disheveled and desperate, slumped over a table, crying out for drink. "Beer! Bring me more beer!" The narrative then takes a gruesome turn. He coughs up blood and dies. The image flashed vividly in his mind. Lloyd writhing in pain, blood gushing violently, a beer mug tumbling to the floor as his life tragically ended.
Cuh, what's the point of being an aristocrat then? It's the same miserable life like it was in Korea.
What the heck kind of guy is this absolute? Suddenly, a glowing message appears. Alarm! You have been chosen to have a random wish granted by the absolute.
What did I wish for that would put me in the body of someone with such an ending? The scene shifts, revealing a picturesque rural landscape, rolling green hills dotted with small villages, a winding river, and majestic mountains under a bright sun. We then see a grand, light-colored stone manor, its elegant architecture gleaming in the sunlight. Inside, Lloyd's mother, Marbella Frontera, turns to him with a worried expression. She asks, "You broke things at the pub last night?" Lloyd, looking somewhat annoyed, replies, "No, last night I was reading a book." Marbella's eyes widen, filled with a desperate plea. "I beg you, Lloyd, this time go to the pub and apologize." I guess it's a mess that this body made, so I'll have to clean it up. "Yes, okay, I'll do it," he muttered, scratching the back of his head with a resigned sigh. His answer, however, left the two people before him completely bewildered. He internally fumed, wondering if they couldn't give him at least a little credit. Meanwhile, under a bright, clear sky, life in the picturesque medieval village continued. Sunlight warmed the traditional buildings, and green foliage dotted the landscape. Just outside one of the half-timbered homes, a bearded man strained, pushing a heavy wooden cart overflowing with hay. "Ugh," he grunted, every muscle taut. Suddenly, his eyes widened in alarm, a bead of sweat tracing a path down his forehead. "Huh?" came the exclamation from the street as our brown-haired protagonist and his mint-haired companion walked by. They had just witnessed the man's sudden fright. The bearded man, without a second thought, scrambled away, abandoning his cart and its load by the building. The protagonist looked down in the direction the man had fled, a question hanging unspoken in the air. A moment later, both he and his companion stood in silence, looking forward with serious, pensive expressions. A bead of sweat formed on the protagonist's temple, signaling deep thought, as the strange incident left them both to ponder the mystery. As our protagonist walks through the quaint village street with Javier, a strange pattern emerges. Villagers, sensing their presence, begin to scatter. Some shuffle away hesitantly, while others dash into the distance. The protagonist can only look on, a mixture of surprise and resignation etched on his face, perhaps wondering what he's done this time. From an open window, a young boy peeks out, his eyes wide with curiosity, but his innocent gaze is quickly interrupted. An adult's hand snatches him away, a sharp command cutting through the air. "Don't make eye contact." The window slams shut with a definitive thud, reinforcing the villagers' undeniable fear. Just in case there was any doubt, a sudden, almost digital notification confirms the obvious. The villagers absolutely detest him, to which our protagonist simply replies, "Yeah, I got that." Turning to Javier, the protagonist finally voices a question that seems long overdue. "By the way, Javier," he asks, "why are you following me?" Javier, looking formal and serious, explains, "His lordship ordered me to escort you so that what happened yesterday does not recur." An eyebrow raised, the protagonist echoes, "Escort for me?" Javier quickly clarifies, his expression unyielding. "Hardly. It's for the villagers. I'm protecting them from you." A moment of realization dawns on the protagonist, followed by a wry acceptance.
Ah, so I'm like a gangster, he concludes.
"I guess the first thing I need to do," a young man named Lloyd muses, his brow furrowed in contemplation, "is to get rid of this scumbag image I have. That way, I can at least get myself some food when I'm a beggar." He quickly corrects himself. "No, if I can sort out my family's debt before that happens." His thoughts drift to a more pleasant scenario. "I can live peacefully as the heir to a country baron." And then, his ultimate fantasy. "And live a sweet, comfortable life to a ripe old age." He pictures himself, blissful and free, emerging joyfully from a pool of golden, shimmering honey. But the daydream is broken. Back in reality, Lloyd looks frustrated. Is there no cheat code or skill I can use? Suddenly, a small blue glow appears near his chest. His eyes widen in surprise. So I do have a skill. Below him, the top portion of a blue interface materializes, labeled Lloyd's Skills. He eagerly reads the screen. Lloyd's Skills, Human Scum, a passive skill. It causes others to furrow their brows. Rowdy Drunkard, when this skill is used, you become an absolute ass. Lloyd's face crumples in despair. He begins to flail his arms wildly, his face a mask of utter distress. Nearby, a young man with light blue hair, dressed formally, watches him with a confused question mark hanging over his head. "Master Lloyd, where are you going?" the attendant asks, as Lloyd continues to move away, glancing back in surprise and worry. "The pub is over here," the attendant points. "Were you lying when you said you would apologize?" "Huh? No, no," Lloyd exclaims, leaning forward defensively, hands up in protest. "I was thinking about something." The attendant's eyes narrow, his expression becoming stern and deeply suspicious, clearly not convinced by Lloyd's frantic explanation. The young man with brown hair stood, his eyes wide and pupils small, a bead of sweat forming on his forehead as confusion and surprise washed over his face, leaving him to stammer out questions. His companion, a calm figure with light blue-green hair, dismissed his unease with a wave of his hand. "It's nothing. Let us go in," he said, his expression composed. They stood before a large, arched wooden door. The blue-haired man reached out, and the door slowly yielded inward, revealing what lay beyond. But as they entered, the blue-haired man's mind was racing. His gaze grew intense, a furrow forming in his brow. He couldn't shake the feeling. Something has seemed off since last night, he thought. It's as if he is a completely different person. His internal realization was immediately met with external evidence. The room before them was a scene of utter devastation. Wooden furniture, including chairs and a table, lay shattered and scattered in pieces across the floor. The walls were scuffed and damaged, debris lying everywhere. A massive crack ran across one wall, and even a mounted animal skull with prominent horns was askew, dislodged from its original position. In the midst of the wreckage, the brown-haired young man was prostrate over a low counter, bowing deeply in an act of extreme apology. Sweat dripped from his face as he cried out, "Forgive me! Everything that happened last night was my fault." Behind the counter, an elderly, bald pub owner stared, his eyes wide with palpable terror. His hands were raised defensively, trembling lines visible around his body, emphasizing his profound fear. He was in a state of extreme high alert. The elderly pub owner, addressing the blue-haired man as Master Lloyd, pleaded desperately, his voice trembling, "Please, I beg you, do not do this." Suddenly, the brown-haired young man's eyes widened in a flash of exasperated realization. He suddenly understood the pub owner's terror, wondering if it was amplified by his own unexpected politeness. He mused, "He's even more terrified because this scumbag is suddenly being polite? Then I'll be a little ruder," he grumbled, offering what he hoped was an apology. But even as he spoke, there was a clear lack of genuine remorse in his demeanor. Immediately, a blue futuristic prompt appeared, flatly stating, "Your apology does not seem very genuine." His frustration boiled over. "Come on, what am I supposed to do?" he exclaimed, looking upward in desperation. Meanwhile, the older man he'd wronged could only manage a quiet, "It's fine, you don't have to apologize." His hunched posture and downcast eyes told a different story of deep distress, and perhaps shame. The young man paused, the weight of the situation beginning to settle on him, a bead of sweat forming on his temple as he processed the exchange. A clear blue sky stretched overhead, a moment of vast, quiet contemplation. He looked down, still troubled. "Even when I apologized, he didn't seem all that happy," he murmured to himself, reflecting on the failed interaction. A calm voice cut through his thoughts. "That's to be expected," said a young man with light blue hair, walking alongside him on a stone path. He continued, explaining the harsh reality. "Everything you destroyed yesterday, his furniture and decorations, they were all purchased with the pub owner's hard-earned money. He likely won't be satisfied until he is compensated," the blue-haired man added, his expression serious. The words hit hard. Compensating him when we have so much debt. The young man's eyes widened in overwhelmed anxiety, a cloud of distressed thoughts appearing above his head. "Is it so hard to get brownie points with the villagers?" he thought aloud. "So if we don't repay the debt, nothing is going to change." A wave of despair washed over him. But how? He wondered, the question heavy with uncertainty. The blue-haired man wasn't finished. Not only that, the pub owner's mother is sick after the late winter cold. He gestured, emphasizing the point. Combine that with your misconduct, and you can imagine just how hard things must be for him. The young man with brown hair looked utterly distressed, the full burden of his actions crushing down on him. The inside of the pub was rather chilly. A single fireplace, he observed, just isn't enough to heat an entire building. The elderly, especially, couldn't handle that kind of cold for very long. He walked on, his mind occupied with these thoughts, remembering the comfort of ondel floors. He came to a halt. A sudden spark ignited within him, a nascent idea beginning to glow. Then it burst into full brilliance. "I've got it." The concept electrified his mind, a powerful connection snapping into place. It was a jolt, a profound realization reflected in his wide, intense gaze. Suddenly, a powerful realization struck me, like a flash of lightning illuminating the darkness, a brilliant idea ignited with pure potential. It began as a swift green beam of thought, rapidly zooming through my mind's eye. Quickly, it expanded, forming an intricate, glowing green grid, a structured pattern taking shape with incredible speed.
In an instant, this mental blueprint evolved into a complex three-dimensional structure, a complete virtual environment unfolding before me. And then, the crucial detail, there are no Ando floors here. This intricate design, this layout with its numbered sections and clear pathways, confirmed it. I focused intently, my eyes sharp with determination, a subtle smirk playing on my lips. If I build these in this world, I was certain of it, they would definitely sell. That hooligan Lloyd Frontera could never dream of this stuff. Meanwhile, in a dimly lit, chaotic space, two men screamed in terror, one kneeling behind an overturned table, the other standing, hands raised in despair. The scene was pure panic, a stark contrast to my calm, confident planning. With unwavering resolve, a young man named Suho Kim stands firm, a faint swirling blue aura hinting at a latent power within. But the real me, he declares, Suho Kim can. This isn't just a fleeting feeling, it's a deep-seated capability, a strength that manifests with an even more intense, ethereal glow around his determined form. This profound self-belief is rooted in a past rich with practical skill. Before this moment, in another life, Suho majored in civil engineering, meticulously learning the blueprints of creation. His hands-on experience wasn't confined to textbooks. As a military engineer, he once constructed an entire house, brick by challenging brick, all by himself. He toiled day and night, climbing scaffolding and carrying heavy loads at countless construction sites, his determination forged in sweat and effort. Now, that dedication has paid off. A triumphant grin spreads across his face as he clenches his fist, a significant achievement behind him. With this, he proudly declares he can finally settle all of the Baron's debts. But the journey isn't over, it's just beginning. Calling out to his companion, Javier, Suho excitedly urges them back to the pub. And why the rush? His eyes sparkle with an almost wild anticipation, his entire being radiating enthusiasm. It's time, he proclaims, to get his very first order. As if a cosmic confirmation of his newfound purpose, a bright digital notification appears. It glows with significance, declaring simply, your true journey has begun. A sudden alert rings out as a futuristic blue text box materializes, announcing that the RP system has been activated. RP, it clarifies, stands for Relationship Points. Immediately, another message appears, explaining exactly how these points can be earned by diligently improving relationships with key characters. Then, a final sequence of chimes confirms the system is fully operational, displaying the current RP total, which, for now, stands at a clear 0.